While everyone's scrambling to look at the normal Bitcoin price chart, we on this YouTube channel lately have been looking at the other dimension of information that we have available to us with on-chain analysis. That means analyzing what's going on with the Bitcoin blockchain, looking at where the transactions are, who's holding what Bitcoin, who's sending that Bitcoin and to who, how much is being sent, all of that really cool kind of side of analysis that you don't even get in traditional markets. And today, we're dialing up the heat on that. So if you're excited for it, do me a favor and smash up those likes, double check that you're subscribed, you've got the bell icon checked as you come on in to this YouTube video. Today we're going to be covering a little bit of short-term analysis too in this one right here, but there is something really big that I want to show you with the on-chain analysis. So before I get to that, what I want to cover with you so far is we have had a little bit of a stop hunt here, right? So we've been trending in a little bit of a kind of rising channel right here, very typical bearish channel before we end up dropping down. That doesn't mean we are going to drop down from it. It's just typically what happens with these kind of patterns. But we actually already dumped down out of it. We grabbed a little bit of liquidity down here. We actually fell just below my support area. Very typical price action here, actually. My support area on this chart stretches down to 16,400. We fell just a couple $100, $100 or $200 below that, and then came right back up. Then we tested the upside. We got rejected from the downside, and we got rejected from the upside, and we're now just kind of back in this equilibrium of slowly trending higher. If we continue to do this, I think that we could be expecting a little bit of resistance up here in this range. But if we are able to get above this range, then I think the sun will definitely start shining on the crypto space once again for the short-term chart. Up until this point, it doesn't actually look that bad in terms of, potentially being a little bit of a pullback, right? We've been in a pretty decent, I would say, short-term uptrend overall right up until this point. Now this dump was far stronger than I wanted to see, but if we are able to recover this and kind of somehow get above, especially like I said, this area right here, I think we could be in a good place. I'm going to get back to this shortly, but I do think that these are some really cool opportunities that we are starting to see form on this chart right here, so definitely keep your eyes locked to it. If you want to be able to take advantage of it, you already know the deal. I'm going to be trading this on Bybit with that beautiful $30,000 deposit bonus. If you want to take advantage of that as well, check it out with the link in the description down below. Phoenix offering you something very similar, only up to $7,000 in this case, but much easier to get. Whatever deposit you make onto, I'm sorry, not Phoenix, PrimeXBT, my bad. Whatever deposit you make onto PrimeXBT, you'll be getting 7% of that credited as a deposit bonus. And the very cool thing that sets PrimeXBT apart from absolutely everything else in this space, other than the fact that they're also very reliable and super safe to use, is that you can also trade the S&P 500 indices, basically gold, silver, oil, forex as well. You can even trade the UK indices, the Germany one, all of them, all the big ones. Very cool, just from a Bitcoin deposit. Both of these guys put together, you're going to be getting a $37,000 deposit bonus in total if you max them out, which is bloody amazing. Well, let's get back to the chart here. And actually, what I want to show you is what the whales are doing with their Bitcoins. We've got some really interesting data here because we've got some data that shows us addresses with a Bitcoin balance of more than 1,000 BTC have kind of slowly been dropping down over here for quite a while. I've already covered this with you in a... how the fuck did you end up in here, mate? We're in the Burj Khalifa. I've already covered this with you guys in a video previously, in a few videos actually, and again, you're going to know all about that if you've been a regular subscriber, so shout out to those of you who have been. But we have seen this kind of dwindling down here, where addresses with a balance of more than 1,000 Bitcoins have kind of dropped down. And I just want to put this into perspective. I mean, 1,000 Bitcoins is a lot of money. I don't even know what that is. If I do the math here, we're at about, I don't know, call it $16,000 multiplied by 1,000. That is, one single address holding more than $16 million of Bitcoin. I mean, we're not talking about chump change right here. This is quite large amounts of money. And if we take a look at that, it has kind of been slowly dropping. We've seen a little bit of an uptick here, but really nothing particularly significant. With our 10K balance, this is what's really interesting, is actually right before the FTX collapse, and I was talking about this a lot on the YouTube channel. You can actually just go back and watch those videos. We were seeing big increases in our wallets that are holding more than 10,000 Bitcoins. So literally, any wallet that holds more than 160, hang on. Yeah, any wallet that holds more than $160 million, just kind of, really increasing in size. And there's not very many, to put this in perspective, by the way. I mean, to get from kind of here up to where we were, I mean, this took us from, I don't know, call it like 90 wallets up to like 120, basically an extra 30 wallets. And that's quite a big deal. I mean, there's not many there's not many wallets that are actually that big to begin with. So when we see a big jump up like that, I think that's a pretty big deal. And to see that this number is dropping now is interesting, because what we're seeing is that the really big wallet holders, they're potentially, we don't know for sure, but they're potentially starting to offload some of their Bitcoins. And it could be a few different things. I want to be very, very clear with you guys. My job as a technical analyst, and first and foremost actually as a trader, is to make sure that I'm poking holes in my own judgments, my own conclusions, my own analysis, just like a scientist. My job is not to credit myself, it is to discredit myself. And if you haven't arrived at a place where you're comfortable doing that yet, then you probably shouldn't be in the markets yet. Just my take. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. Let me just flash on my disclaimer. It's been a while. There we go. And the thing is, guys, this could just mean, like, let's say I had a wallet that had 10,000 Bitcoins in it, 10,001 Bitcoins. I could then just send out 5,000 Bitcoins to another wallet that I own, and this number would drop. So this doesn't mean that, these Bitcoins are being sold. It could just mean that they're being moved around, they're being split up. And this is a big weak point in the analysis that I'm sharing with you guys. You got to take this with a pinch of salt. And what I've just said is the pinch of salt. Now, if you appreciate that I'm really leveling out my analysis and doing this work for you guys so you don't have to poke holes in it yourself, do me a favor and smash up the likes. There aren't that many people on YouTube that can do this, and there certainly aren't that many that do it at all. So if it is something that you'd like to see more of and that you appreciate, I do appreciate any support you can throw my way. And of course, even just hitting up the like button on these videos is incredibly helpful to get that engagement up and push the videos out to our own subscribers that don't get notified, and a wider audience as well, just to help me out. Do appreciate you all so much. Thank you very, very much. Now, this begs the question. These wallets are dropping. We're seeing less Bitcoin wallets with over 1,000 Bitcoins or equal to 1,000 Bitcoins. We're seeing less Bitcoin wallets with equal to or more than 10,000 Bitcoins. Where is it going? Bam. Take a look at this. We're starting to see an uptick right here. This is the amount of wallets with, this is the amount of addresses with a balance of over 100 BTC. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick here. Nothing huge, but we are seeing an uptick. So this is showing us that we could potentially be seeing a little bit of that money being kind of leaked into other addresses right here. And this is actually, explains the title of the video. It's like, this is information that people aren't looking at. Like, this is almost like leaked information legends. Like, it's not information that's hard to get particularly, but it's information that you probably didn't know about. And that's because most people don't even consider this layer of analysis right here, but that's exactly why I'm bringing it to you guys on this YouTube channel. We look at addresses with more than a balance of 10 BTC or equal to or more than 10 BTC. So again, big amounts of money. I mean, if you've got one Bitcoin wallet with $160,000, that's still pretty good, right? I mean, it's good money, especially for normal people like you and I. I mean, I don't care how rich you are. 160K is a lot of money. This has been moving up quite a lot, and it's been moving up for a while. It's been moving up for a while. So here we're talking about, your standard, kind of wealthy investors, really. Even some middle class. We're stretching middle class at this point, but even some middle class, but certainly some, your generally wealthier audiences, they're picking up more Bitcoins here. And this has really been happening quite clearly now since basically the beginning of 2022, beginning of this year. We've been seeing this uptrend. It's really starting to shoot up right now. But this data gets way more interesting when we switch on to the smaller balances. Look at this: addresses with over a balance of with a balance of one Bitcoin or more. We're seeing a big jump up here now. I mean, again, just to kind of read these numbers, this is like going from, I don't know, call this 700,000 addresses up to like 920,000 or something. I mean, like a big jump right here. Quite a substantial jump we're seeing with this right here. And this is where it gets really crazy. Is we are actually now looking at addresses with a balance of more equal to or more than 0.1 BTC. And right here, guys, we have a big jump. So and this jump has been has kind of started again at the beginning of this year, similar to the last couple charts that I showed you with these uptrends. It's already started kind of this year, but we're seeing big jumps recently. I mean, very clear divergence. The smallest wallets are picking up a lot of Bitcoin basically after the FTX collapse. The biggest ones are selling right after the FTX collapse. The reason that this data is interesting is when we look at, the big wallet holders, generally a lot of people are going to be thinking that, your big wallet holders are going to be the smarter people because they have more money, right? So generally money is in the hands of smarter people, whether you like it or not. That's just a fact, right? It's generally the case. And so what we're seeing right here is potentially, your smarter people offloading their Bitcoins. Potentially, again, remember the vulnerability that I pointed out with this analysis. We're potentially seeing that, and we're potentially seeing on the other side of that it is our smaller guys, the more retail, people like you and I, that are picking up those Bitcoins and storing them in our wallets, right? And I think that's what's really interesting, this kind of divergence that we're seeing here. I mean, it's undeniable. Look at this big shoot up right here with quite small balances. This is, again, $1,600, still a good amount of money, but obviously compared to $160 million, it's nothing. We're seeing a really big change here. And quite a clear divergence. Even again, like I said, with the wallets that have over 1,000 Bitcoins in them, equal to or over 1,000 Bitcoins, serious clear drop that we're seeing here. Very clear drop that we're seeing here, coming off that FTX collapse, and literally the opposite happening with our smaller balances. And I think this is something that's interesting to be pointing out, and I think it's definitely something that's worth paying attention to. I also want to show you this chart right here. What we're getting here is the percent of addresses that are in a profit. And I've shown you this chart previously as well. What I think is quite interesting about this is that whenever we hit this kind of green zone showing us that, not very many addresses are in a profit, compared to when they bought Bitcoin or compared to when Bitcoin was moved into that address, Bitcoin was trading at a higher price or a lower price. We're now kind of below this green line right here, which has been historically quite significant, where anytime we've kind of dipped below this green line, it's been a phenomenal place to get into the market. It's been a phenomenal place to be holding Bitcoin, instead of selling. And the opposite being somewhat true for the red zone. Not really, because we hit the red zone a lot, and I don't think that would represent a particularly good place to exit. But certainly for our green zone, we haven't really seen the price drop very much once we hit the green zone. It's hard to imagine that a huge amount of people, huge amount of addresses really could be in a loss. And so I think to be even in this green zone is quite significant. And the thing is the number has had some real strong historical significance here. Definitely something which I think signifies that we are seeing money move from the really big guys into the hands of the small guys, and the implications of that being that, we're potentially starting to see that next bull run, which is actually another hole that we can poke in this analysis, because we've seen previously that I don't know if these charts show it here. They do somewhat here. For example, this right here, addresses with a balance of 10,000 BTC or more, dropping down sharply as we enter that 3K range, but it actually marked the bottom. So are we seeing something similar to that right now? It could be the case, right? And so that, again, kind of ties in with this data here where this isn't, 100% foolproof, right? These whales don't get it right all the time. And we have some very clear examples of that being the case. Another brilliant example of that is, let me see if I can identify another one. Like, we're seeing drops right here, right? Take a look at this. This is July 2020, right after the coronavirus market crash. They actually pick up more Bitcoin, but then they drop again, and that's kind of right where the rally starts. So I think this is a really significant chart to be looking at here, telling us some quite important things about where this market could be and where we could be headed. We tie this in with the more short-term analysis again, and I think this is what we really do need to be paying attention to right now, because if we are in a situation where potentially smarter people are offloading their Bitcoins, we have to start wondering why. We have to start wondering why they might be doing that, and could it be that we're about to see another really big leg down? We already know the deal here, that we don't have a whole lot of support in this range. So if we start collapsing below our current support levels, we're probably looking at pretty steep drops. There's not really a lot of support in this range. If we lose this green box, I expect that we go down to our previous basically trend lows. But this isn't strong support to begin with. It wasn't to begin with, and I don't think it will be now. And so I'd have to expect that we fall down to these next areas. These kind of price moves are pretty big. From where we are now to getting down here, that's a 17.7% move to the downside, and it could just be that these big guys don't want to sit through that. They probably want to buy them a little bit lower. If we're going to get these Bitcoin a little bit lower, that is obviously none of that is guaranteed. What I'm looking for in the short term, though, to reiterate, is that we managed to reclaim this box here that stretches basically between $17,000 and $17,300. If we manage to get above that, I'm going to be looking at Bitcoin targeting our previous kind of trend high right up around here. But more realistically, I think that we will end up hitting this resistance box. In between us and those areas, we do have some areas to be concerned about. If we take a look at this on the 1 hour time frame, let's wait for this to load up right here. Our Ichimoku cloud is showing that we're in resistance right now. I'm not particularly worried about it. I think we're doing okay with this resistance. What I am more worried about is what we've got on the 4 hour time frame. It's already failed us, actually. We've managed to find a little bit of support here, but not a whole lot, and it's failed us. It's now flipped into resistance, and if we target this area basically up towards Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we could have a little bit of a problem with this chart. On the daily time frame, we've got something even worse. This is actually quite heavy resistance in my opinion. It is starting to close up towards the end of January, but nothing right now potentially indicating any relief for the market. And I think that that is also going to be something that's somewhat concerning to me right now in this chart. So if we do manage to rise up, the good news is that the resistance is quite far ahead, especially if we rise up now, you know, kind of before Christmas, ideally before the end of this year. You know, it's only right, you know, these last few days of the year where our resistance gets quite low. But, you know, for now, we have got a little bit more headroom. That could allow Bitcoin to really kind of target the upside. But bottom line, guys, there is a lot going against Bitcoin right now in terms of this indicator right here. EMA ribbon, not so bad, but we do still have resistance here. It did still reject us. We are facing that resistance right now. I think Bitcoin is going to be undergoing a little bit of pressure right here as we peak a little bit higher. But if we're able to overcome it, we could be looking at some pretty decent moves in the market. Let's actually take a look at this on the 4 hour time frame with that EMA ribbon. This isn't something that I've looked at already. Yeah, we are in resistance right now. So if you are bearish, this is going to be something that you'd be paying attention to. So it's hard to draw big, strong conclusions off this, especially because of the vulnerabilities in this analysis, which mean that, you know, it could just be that, you know, a bunch of our 10K addresses are getting split into 1K addresses or 100 Bitcoin addresses by the same people. They're still owned by the same people, and it's just, you know, kind of trying to throw the analysis that we're doing on chain off. You know, that could very well be what's happening. It might not be on purpose. It could be just exchanges repositioning themselves, because a lot of the accounts, a lot of the addresses that hold more than 10,000 BTC are going to be by exchanges. You know, and there's not, again, you know, just to keep in mind, there's not very many of them. We're only looking at, you know, right now, what, like 110 of them, you know, in total. There's not very many addresses that hold that much Bitcoin. And I think that alone kind of speaks volumes about, you know, what this data could be showing us, which is, yeah, you know, we do have to take this with, you know, quite a pinch of salt right here. So that is a little bit of interesting on-chain analysis. I want you guys to let me know what you're making of it. It's nothing particularly huge. You know, I don't want to make a huge deal out of it, but it's still an interesting sign. It's a good piece of data to be looking at, and it's not something that I'd be, you know, potentially, you know, forming huge decisions based off. I still have my own opinions that remain unchanged regardless of this data, but you know, generally when you want to make a decision, especially as an investor and a trader, you want to, you know, at least I want to have as many signs of confirmation that I'm doing the right thing as possible. And you know, the more I have, the more confident I feel. So if you're anything like that, this is going to be something that's important to you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see next as well. Thank you all for tuning in to these videos. Really do appreciate you all. If you have enjoyed this one, you know what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. Check out Bybit for your 30K deposit bonus right here. Check out PrimeXBT for your $7,000 deposit bonus right here with all these beautiful markets available for trading just with a Bitcoin deposit. You don't even need to do KYC for it, which is very cool. I've been using these guys for a very long time, multiple years actually. Bybit as well, very long time, multiple years. Bybit I've been with for way longer than pretty much any other exchange I've ever touched. And if you want to check them both out, they're going to be linked in the description down below for you to get some really cool bonuses as well. And if you want to jump inside of my 𝗬𝗡𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 VIP group, we've got that 60% off offer running right now for our quarterly and yearly packages. So go ahead and take advantage of that if it's something that you think you'd be interested in. With that, really hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do if you have. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.